What's up guys, we're once again going to be talking about the MVP race. Today, I want to focus on two players who aren't really considered in the conversation, yet have put up pretty surprising years given the current stages in their career. That being Kevin Durant and LeBron James. I want to talk about these two guys together due to how similar their cases are. Two 2010 stars on new teams, facing injuries, internal and external pressures. I want to look at how their seasons are going, look at what they're going through, and explain somehow how Kevin Durant and LeBron James still are in the MVP conversation. So let's start off with the kid from Akron who's in his 19th year of basketball and is still a top 5 player in the league. At 37 years old, LeBron James is 4th when it comes to average minutes played per game, and on top of that, he is averaging 30 points per game, 8 rebounds, 6 assists with a 61% true shooting percentage. LeBron has garnered plenty of attention from the media this year due to him putting up some crazy scoring games, a fact even made more crazy given his current age. Not too long ago, he put up multiple 50-point games in a matter of only a few days. LeBron simply isn't just putting up big numbers for the sake of it. As we all know, he is carrying a struggling Lakers roster. When LeBron scores more than 30, the Lakers are still only 12-12, and that record drops to 9-13 when he puts up less than 30. 30 points per game is a pretty insane number. We forget about it because of how often we see it, but for having your best player have to put up 30 or more points just for a 50-50 chance to win a game is insane. I don't think I need to go all about the stats because we all know how good LeBron is and how unprecedented his season is. At 37 years old, he's having one of the best seasons of his career and is basically the sole reason why the Lakers are even in the playoff contention. Yet, as I make this, the Lakers sit around the 10th seed. If you look at what the MVP means in face value, and look at what most valuable means, rather than looking at how it has been historically voted, historically the MVP leans towards guys in the top 3 seeds, guys with the narrative, as well as putting up big stats. LeBron has to be towards the top of his team's success, and practically the only reason why the Lakers are even sniffing the playoffs. His play on the court has seemingly changed as well. Something LeBron has done so well throughout his career is be able to adapt his play style, especially given his current age and some of his more likely injury situations. While LeBron still converts at the rim at a pretty similar rate for majority of his career, he tends not to dunk as much, but don't tell that to Kevin Love. He has spent much more time this year at center, partially due to Anthony Davis missing large periods of time, but with LeBron at center, he invites such a mismatch that many teams are unable to stop. Most teams don't have a center who can attack, space the floor out, and be a pick and roll ball handler. That brings many big guys out of the paint, and when Russell Westbrook can actually have good off-ball movement, this opens up the Lakers offense. Running LeBron at the center gives the Lakers a chance to run 4 other small guys, plenty of off-ball movement, plenty of cutting, and you know LeBron is going to find him. That is very hard for defenses to stop consistently. On the defensive end of things, I've always called LeBron a good rotational and kind of time-sensitive defender, and while I believe that to be mostly true, this definitely has not been the strongest defensive year for him. His steal and block stats look pretty good. In fact, his blocks are actually at a career high, but his individual defensive rating per 100 possessions is also at the worst in his career. When it's convenient to, LeBron can be excellent in making rotations and knowing just where to be, but if a play is also a few too many steps away from him, he is more than likely to concede a basket. While LeBron is starting to show some age, he may not be dunking as much, and his defense definitely isn't what it was years ago. His flat-out skills can still not be denied. Regardless on your opinions of LeBron's actions, which I will talk about soon, it is undeniable that he is carrying the Lakers and having one of the best seasons of his career. Now let's talk about Kevin Durant. LeBron's rivals of the 2000s have continued to battle him into 2022. Durant, like LeBron, has been having an incredible season, currently averaging 29, 7, and 6 with a 63% true shooting percentage. Durant has been having an insane year as he's been incredibly lethal from all levels of the floor. He is shooting well beyond 50% from mid-range, which is absolutely absurd for a player to average. He has struggled due to injury, but when he is on the court, the Nets still have a record of 29-15, with many people calling him one of, if not the greatest person in the game right now. Let me say that again. The guy is 33 years old, he's trying to come back from an Achilles tear, and many people are still calling him the best player in basketball. Now, like LeBron, Durant has changed the areas from the floor on which he attacks. He no longer attacks the hoop in the same way that we often saw him in Oklahoma City, and he isn't even spotting up as much as he did in Golden State. But Kevin Durant may just be the king of the mid-range this year. We all knew he was elite at it, but this is one of the highest efficiencies he has ever had from mid-range. He is one of, if not the best, mid-range shooter in today's game. The one thing LeBron and Durant definitely have in common is that they have been playing absolutely amazing despite all of the stuff going up against them. But one thing that I cannot deny is that this season has been a complete failure for their respective teams. This is something I've wanted to talk about for a while, so let's get into it. Both the Lakers and the Nets are arguably the biggest disappointments in the league. For many, Durant versus LeBron, Nets versus Lakers, Brooklyn versus Los Angeles, that was supposed to be the finals matchup. But the Nets' big three have suffered from both COVID and other issues, and have failed to make it work for most of the season. However, at the time I make this, it does sound like Kyrie Irving will be returning for full-time play, so that could just change the narrative of the season for the Brooklyn Nets. The Lakers' big three have been unable to remain healthy or forget how to play basketball. Both of these players, but more of LeBron specifically, are intertwined with the creation of their teams. Durant obviously had a say on the team both bringing in and probably letting go of James Harden. And I do believe the whole lead GM notion is a bit overplayed, and I actually think it shifts some of the blame away from the Lakers front office due to their poor decision making. However, I do recognize that LeBron was involved in the acquisitions of both Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis, and because of that, has some responsibility in the team's lack of success this year. At the time of that Davis trade, many people already knew by that point that Anthony Davis was injury prone, and some people even said at the time that the Pelicans won the trade. Last offseason when they traded for Westbrook, a lot of people called it an overbuy or predicted the end of his prime. So because of this, and because of the unique control that LeBron has, many people are not going to feel sorry for him when his team fails to win. Rather than this being the season where 37-year-old averages 30 points per game and leads a team to the playoffs, this is going to be the season where LeBron tries to assemble a super team, his hand-picked team, and fails. I'm not saying that I personally believe this, but this has definitely been the narrative going around for him for majority of the season. However, some things have been changing as people have been recognizing or starting to recognize just how much LeBron has been doing. For Durant, the story may not be too different. The Harden issue will go down as a stain in this era of Nets basketball, and for much of the season, Kyrie had spent his time as a part-time player due to things obviously out of his control. Both Durant and LeBron have plenty of reasons to be hated. They both had a part in creating amazing teams on paper and should have been the teams at the top of their conferences. Both players have suffered from major injuries and have had issues staying on the court. LeBron especially, but both players are starting to get up there in age, and gradually we both know Durant and LeBron are changing their game. LeBron, as I just said, has become much more of a shooter, and Durant too has given up the inside part of his game. At the earlier parts of his career, a quarter of his shot attempts used to be at the rim. Now less than 11% of his shot attempts are at that same mark. Yet he is taking more difficult shots, and he has still been incredibly efficient and one of the best scorers in the league this year. That is just crazy. But no matter what you can say about them, one thing is undeniable. Kevin Durant and LeBron James are still some of the best players in the NBA and carry a huge load of their team's success. Neither the Lakers nor the Nets would have a chance at making the playoffs. Neither team would be relevant if it weren't for these guys. I know the Lakers have Davis and the Nets have Kyrie, however I said they've both missed significant amounts of time. Both stars have spent plenty of time away from their co-stars, and in return, they're putting up some of the biggest carry jobs in the league along with someone like Nikola Jokic. Obviously, neither LeBron or Durant is going to win MVP. Like Devin Booker, I do have them in my B tier of candidates, guys who deserve recognition, and if they were playing in a different scenario, if they were healthy, and if they were top 3 seeds, they could be favorites, but because of that, I'm gonna have to put them just below that tier of player. I'm sure somebody out there is gonna vote for LeBron and Durant, or at least get some sort of second place vote, but majority of people will not be seeing them as the MVP, obviously. Majority of people will not be seeing them as the MVP, but that doesn't change the fact that LeBron James and Kevin Durant are still putting up MVP caliber play, carrying their teams in ways that we've only seen a few players do before. They have defended their status of top 5 players and have every right to be in the conversation for the 2022 NBA